I really want to thank everybody for joining us today. We're so happy that you're here. My name is Jerica Owen, and I am the Executive Director with the National Animal Care and Control Association. You are here today to join both NACA and the team at Project Coyote as we announce a new partnership to really help ensure that animal control officers across the country have access to the best science-based resources and training that's really needed to foster peaceful coexistence between people and wildlife. More specifically today, we're going to be talking about coyotes. For those of you who may be unfamiliar with NACA, we represent the interests of the animal care and control officers and agencies across the country. We're a membership organization, and we offer education, training, resources, as well as a national certification for animal control officers, as well as law enforcement on animal control, law enforcement whose duties include animal-related functions. We are honored to be partnering with Project Coyote and are really aiming to equip ACOs with the knowledge and tools, including some co-branded materials such as door hangers, brochures, signs, information that informs, educates, and even more so empowers. And these materials can be distributed in communities, shelters, wildlife rehabilitation centers, and really anywhere that may be impactful to really support the cohesion between humans and wildlife, especially in areas where conflict may exist. So the Project Coyote team will go into a little bit more depth on some of these resources. But as I mentioned, these resources are science-based and tested for effectiveness before being included in the toolkits that you'll see in a little bit, and are really designed to be accessible by diverse audiences in various different reading levels as well, including some Spanish translated materials. So with that, hi, John. So
hi.
I'm just finishing up our intro here, and then I'll hand it over to you. So just want to thank you all again for being here today. We're going to go ahead and jump over to the Project Coyote team. We're going to do a presentation and some Q&A. So I see that our friend Sue Libby has already added something in the chat. So please, if you have questions as we go through this, go ahead and add them to the chat. There's also a Q&A button, I think probably towards the bottom of your screen. So you're welcome to use that as well. That may just go to the panelists. So you can do chat for everybody, or you're welcome to just do the panelists. We will work through as many questions as we can as we get towards the end of the presentation. And it is now my pleasure to introduce to you, I'm going to mess it up again, John Maguranis. Not even close.
Not even close.
Okay, this is my friend John. John has served as a United States Army veterinary technician for more than 20 years. During his time, he cared for a wide range of animals from bald eagles to bison. And upon retiring from the Army, following his love for animals, he became an animal control officer for a small town near Boston, Massachusetts. It was there that he noticed some issues and started a campaign to help educate the community about why coyotes matter ecologically and why they deserve respect and appreciation. Since then, John has provided over 100 presentations about living with coyotes and really working to empower communities and animal control officers with the tools, the information, and the resources necessary to support coexistence. So John has worked collaboratively with many organizations and researchers throughout New England and across the country on policy-related issues and field research while advocating for better treatment of coyotes and wildlife. John's passion has been instrumental in helping to foster educated coexistence and compassionate conservation. So thank you so much, John, for being here today. And with that, I am going to go ahead and hand it over to the Project Coyote team and take it away.
Okay, John, you are up. I'm going to explain to everyone, we did have some technical difficulties, so John was not able to join by video, but he's joining us by phone, so go for it, John. Oh no, it looks like John's, we are having major difficulties today. His phone has dropped.
Oh,
All right, well, I will just carry on and carry on from where Jericho was. And I want to first say that we're so excited about this partnership. And one of the reasons is because ACOs on the ground are so often the first responders to any kind of conflicts with wildlife. And so part of our program, Coyote Friendly Communities, is really working to empower communities with the tools, the resources, the science-based information they need to promote compassionate coexistence. So with this partnership and all the different ACOs that NACA represents across the country, we are excited to be able to provide these co-branded materials. We already provide them on our website. You can go into resources, you can see all the brochures, the signage, door hangers. And really this is about assisting communities that often don't have the resources. Many of our state agencies are focused on other issues and really don't have the capacity to be able to provide the kind of information that communities need. So we're working with a number of communities, cities across the country, and we're just super excited for this partnership. So let me see where we're at with John. Is he with us now? Okay. Calling in. Are you
Okay,
there?
I'm back.
Excellent, John. I'm sending it over to you. You are up. And everyone knows
Okay.
that you're just going to be joining by phone. So all is good there.
Okay, I apologize everyone for the technical problems, but we'll get through it. So today, first I want to thank everyone for having me here, Project Coyote, NACA, everyone involved, awesome people. So thanks, and so here we go. So I'm going to talk about ACOs, Coyotes, and Project Coyote, what you need to know, being prepared, controlling negative situations, being visible, and at the end we'll do questions and answers. So being prepared, when I say be prepared, I'm talking about when you suddenly, as an animal control officer, have a coyote issue. Maybe for the first time, and usually it's a coyote, takes somebody's family dog, and it just causes a huge uproar in the community. So it's much better to be proactive in that case than reactive. And being proactive means to be educated. You got to, every ACO in the country needs to know about coyotes because they could be an issue, and they're everywhere, and they're filling in all the places that they don't have coyotes. So we all need to know about these guys. Gather resources and information. Project Coyote has a great information page on their website. I'm not logged in visually, so I can't see, but I think Project Coyote may show you a copy of that page with available resources. And I could tell you, when I first started out as an animal control officer, one of the first things I had to deal with was coyotes, and I knew nothing about them. So luckily for me, there was a thing called Project Coyote, and I was able to hook up with them and get the information that I needed. So prepare yourself and do it now if you haven't had any issues, and even if you had, because they're bound to happen again. So get your information, educate yourself, and get your information from reliable sources. Facebook and social media is not a reliable source of information. Matter of fact, it compounds problems regarding coyotes over and over again. It makes me crazy. People love to be experts and say all kinds of stuff, and everyone else just believes them. So please, if you're going to get information on coyotes or anything, I would highly recommend you not get that from social media. So moving on, educate yourself. The more you know, the better you can assist. When issues come up regarding coyotes, the more knowledge you have about their behavior, their biology, all that stuff will help you do a good job, do a better job in managing not only coyotes, but people. Because coyote problem isn't a coyote problem, it's a people problem. And remember this, knowledge affirms your authority. If you get in front of a bunch of people and you start talking and you start speaking with facts and knowledge, people will respect that and they'll remember that. But if you get up in front of a crowd and you start babbling and saying stuff that's inaccurate or factless, you're going to look like a banana head, and you don't want to do that. So get yourself in a position where you can really not only look good, but you can do justice for the animals, coyotes, dogs, whatever it is. So educate yourself. And like I said, there's a lot of resources out there. Look up projectcoyote.org. They got great resources for people, stuff you can download, stuff you can use in your community. It's really, really good stuff. So with that, you need to become the subject matter expert. Residents expect this of you. Your title alone, Animal Control Officer, tells people that you're supposed to know about animals. And in my opinion, and I know this is different in a lot of different municipalities, but for me, I was able to have free reign in my job. I could rescue coyotes. I could, bring owls to a wildlife clinic. Whatever I deem necessary and important, I was able to do. And I was really lucky. And I surely realize that a lot of you don't have that kind of freedom. But remember, your residents don't know all that. They're looking for you for guidance. They're looking for you to be the expert, to tell them what to do and how to deal with coyotes. So, and other wildlife, I keep saying coyotes, but really we're talking about a whole realm of animals, mostly predators, because they're the ones that always seem to, get in trouble in the public's eye. So be the subject matter expert. Know what you're talking about. Never, ever say anything that you don't just fill in the blank with something you think is correct. If you don't know, it's okay to say, I'm not really sure of that, but I'm going to find out and I'll have that answer for you by the end of the day. And make sure you do. You find out the answer and get back with that person and tell them the answer. Those are really important things that animal control officers need to do. And you always need to be prepared. And in regards to coyotes, you need to be proactive. You need to be ahead of the game. If you don't know anything about coyotes or you're a young, new ACO and you haven't dealt with them yet, and all of a sudden one of them takes somebody's little dog and they get on the news and social media and all that, you're going to have to react to that. And you're going to have to react in a positive, professional manner. Because if you don't, you're just going to look like a baboon, and you don't want to do that. You want to be professional at all times. So be prepared. It's a recipe for success, is being prepared and being knowledgeable about whatever species or whatever the issue is at hand. Control negative situations. A lot of you guys and gals probably already know what happens when a coyote comes to town for the first time and takes somebody's little dog. That creates a total community uproar. And it's up to you as an animal control officer to step in there, educate those people, and get control of that situation and turn it into a positive. It's taking control of an opportunity and make it good. So when, for example, as I was saying, a coyote comes into town, it takes a little dog, you need to go and be there. Be there for the family, find out exactly what happened. There's a lot of times where people will find a dead cat and they'll say, oh, a coyote got it. And, we'll find out later on that it was hit by a car. Or, I can remember so many times, so many cats would come up missing and people would just start posting, oh, a coyote got him. He's gone. Coyotes are everywhere, blah, 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 blah. And then a year later, I would see a feral cat somewhere out in the woods, set traps and catch it and scan it. And turns out it's an owned cat with a microchip that's been on the loose for a year. And the whole time during the year, the people are convinced that the coyotes had eaten them and killed them. So get your information, make sure you do a good investigation, and again, seize that opportunity. The more you know, the better you can assist the public. And remember, the public is who's paying your salary. So you can either shine or you can fold under pressure. And if you follow some of these tips, you'll shine. You know, you'll definitely shine, and you'll do the right thing. You know, I didn't start my clock, so I don't know how much time I got. So I'm going to ramble on a little bit more. Be visible. Animal control job is a highly visible job. It always killed me when I would talk to other ACOs here and there, and every time I talk to them, they're in the office, or they're doing computer work, or they're writing citations from the list from the town clerk or whatever. So they're spending an awful lot of time in the office doing stuff that is probably part of their job. I understand that. But in my opinion, your job is out in the street. You got to be visible. People got to see you riding around. They got to see you in the parks. They got to see you out in the woods. They got to see that you're doing your job and that you want to be there for people. So be visible. In regards to those incidents that, really gets everyone's attention, when a coyote kills a family pet, you need to go there and be respectful and have empathy. Be sympathetic to the family. They just lost their dog or their cat. Losing a pet is a tragic event, and you need to remember that. Never go there and say, well, gee, if you didn't, let your cat outside, it wouldn't happen. Wrong. You need to quell all that kind of information and just go and be there for those people. You need to also assist them with the remains. Many times in my career, there'd be, dog or a cat that was partially eaten or, dead on the lawn or hit by a car or whatever. And the family is so distraught that they need help. So that's when you can really do a good job and be professional and step in and say, look, let me take the body. I'll bring it, I'll secure it. You guys take a couple, 2-3 days and just think about what you want to do. Maybe you want to have them cremated. Maybe you want to bury them in your backyard. Whatever you want, just take the time and think about it and then get back to me and let me know. That's being there for those people. Having to deal with a dead body when they don't have to is awful. And as an animal control officer, you're also a people person. So you need to go in there and assist those people and help them with the body and all that other kind of stuff that goes along with that. Be prepared for the anger and public outrage. Whenever a coyote comes to town and kills a family pet, that usually follows a huge public outcry. And that's usually when I get phone calls from animal control officers say, hey, John, please come to my town and do a presentation. And I'm happy to do that. But I think a lot of times, if the animal control officers just spent some time educating themselves, then I wouldn't have to go do it. I mean, I prefer to do it because I think I do a great job. But as an individual, if I'm an animal control officer and I'm in charge of, town A, I want to know everything that's going on in that town. I want to be the one that people come to. I want to be the one that deals with those events that happen. So I guess what I'm trying to say is just be prepared, because people get angry and can really get nasty. But if you know the facts, when people start firing things off at you and you keep calm and you come back with factual information, it's the best thing to do. Communicate with your residents. I spent an awful lot of time when I was an animal control officer, not only patrolling, but foot patrolling. I went to every park in the town every day, at least twice. I always got out, walked around. I talked to people that had dogs all the time. And there was also another place, I think it was like 92 acres. And it was a great place for people to bring their dogs. It was a big, huge meadow bordered with woods. And of course, there was a lot of coyote activity there. And so I spent a lot of time there, and I would, bump into people while they were walking their dog, and I would just talk to them and, give their dog a little bit of loving and kind of, see how the people are doing, and I would just kind of just gently ask, hey, have you seen any coyotes today? And look for the reaction. If they jerk their head back and say, coyotes, what do you mean coyotes? There's no coyotes around here. Boom, there's your opportunity. Take a couple minutes and talk to that person and educate them about coyotes. What else I want to say about that? So the face-to-face stuff with me, I thought was really important. I've actually had a couple people, come back to me and say, it was really nice meeting you out in the meadow, and I really appreciated the information you gave me, and I'll certainly, heed that information. So it's very effective, and it's much more personal when you talk to somebody face to face, as opposed to posting stuff on Facebook or, your town website or whatever. And that's all good. Don't get me wrong, but nothing beats face to face. So get out there and communicate with your residents. Be out there, be visible, take the time to talk to everyone. Utilize your resources. Letters to the editor are a great way to communicate to the public. It's a great way to reflect your professionalism. But you got to do this, okay? Not everybody's a great writer. I'm certainly not. I was very fortunate in my last job where my boss was very, affluent in English and grammar and all that. So I would write a piece, and then I would go see her and say, hey, Donna, can you help me, critique this? And we'd sit down, and she would critique it and make changes, correct my mistakes, and reward stuff. And we'd get it to where it was really an effective piece of writing. And so I urge you to write. It's a great way to, to do your job, to communicate with the public. But make sure you don't put garbage out there. Sit down with somebody who's really good with English and have them, and just the people who are good writers love to help other people. So, find somebody that's really good and say, hey, I want to put this in the paper. This is what I'm trying to portray, and this is the message I want to get across. Can you help me write it? So that's a good way to do it, because I can tell you, if you write some garbage, it really reflects bad on you. So please, I encourage everybody to write letters to the editor, or even a column. You can go to your local little newspaper place and say, hey, I'm the animal control officer. I'd like to have, maybe have a column like once a month, the ACOs corner or whatever, and set that up. And then every month you can write a little piece. It really does well for you. And really the public loves that kind of stuff. In my early years, I did a lot of writing. Like I said, I had a great boss. She was very enthusiastic with helping me. And so I wrote a lot of stuff, and I wrote articles about different wildlife, about coyotes. I rebutted a few letters to the editor, people writing in saying, John loves coyotes more than he does the public, and why can't we get rid of them, blah 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 blah. So I would write back and be respectful and just answer their cries with facts. So I urge you to write in your local newspaper. Kind of lost my thought. Sorry. I'm talking about utilizing resources. So LTEs, like I said, a great way to do it. Project Coyote has a great section for resources. I really encourage you to go there, projectcoyote.org/ somebody will tell you what the other part is. But they have great information. So utilize it. It's there for you. You can download stuff. You can get door hangers. There's all kinds of great information, and information on how to do stuff regarding coyotes. So visit them. Use the local cable TV. I was invited many times. After I did a little bit of writing, people knew who I was. Kind of grabbed the eye of the local cable guy, and so I started doing presentations basically on air, and that really went over well. So there's a lot of stuff that you can do to promote your job, to be professional, and to do a good job. I realize that some of you are probably handcuffed a little bit with departmental policies. I know a lot of ACOs that work for police departments that weren't allowed to write. They weren't allowed to be interviewed or any of that kind of stuff. They weren't allowed to address the public. I don't get it. I don't understand that line of thinking. But if you're in that position, it's going to be very difficult to overcome that. I think the best way to do that is to just get out there and be visible. Know your stuff. Okay. Again, I'm going to reiterate, you've got to educate yourself about coyotes. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and you need to know what's right and what's wrong in order to present that to your community, because that's your responsibility. So I urge you, animal control officers, to get out there and do the job directly. A lot of people will defer wildlife calls to their local state wildlife officials. I don't know about anywhere else, but here in Massachusetts, the state guys, they're pretty busy. They don't have time to be, going to different towns and doing presentations and all that kind of stuff. So it's up to you. You need to do it. Again, I know that a lot of people, they're just not allowed to do some of that stuff. So you're going to have to be creative. Unfortunately, I prepared a few slides, and then the last slide would have my email address. I would encourage you to email me if you have questions. I'd give it to you, but you'd never be able to spell it. It's jmaguranis@projectcoyote.org. And I guess at the end we can
for you.
Okay, yeah, good. jmaguranis@projectcoyote.org. So if you do have questions, you can email me. You can email info@projectcoyote.org. There's some great folks there. Probably the most knowledgeable people in the world regarding coyotes is right there at Project Coyote. So, if you have questions, you can try firing off a question to them. There's a lot of stuff out there for animal control officers and for the general public, but you got to utilize it. You got to get out there and do it. And I can tell you by experience, the more you know, the better you're going to look. The more educated you are regarding coyotes, the more professional you're going to look. Dealing with coyotes is a no-brainer. Coexistence works. It's the best, absolute best option when you have coyotes in town. And you need to know why. I mean, I only got 30 minutes, and I don't know how much time I've used already, but you have to know that stuff and get it in your head and utilize it and be professional. So I think that's about all I have. I wish I had a video going here. I would love to do I'm sorry, I'm having a brain lock here. A coyote hazing thing, but can't really do that. So I guess I can field questions or whatever the panelists need me to do next. I'm all about it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, John. That was so informative. I have a list of questions here from everybody who's joining us. I want to first say again, thank you to everybody who's joining us, including those of you who are joining us from out of the country. It looks like Portugal and Brazil. Absolutely fantastic. So thank you. John's email has been put in the chat, so you're welcome to do that. We will run through a couple of questions, and there's also a website that was just popped into the chat, and this is where you'll find all of the resources that we were talking about. These are the co-branded banners, flyers, brochures, English and Spanish, a lot of amazing material that's designed for you to take into your communities. So John, I'm going to start here with the first question that we have. What do you recommend to citizens that call with concerns for their safety after having, quote unquote, a close encounter, but not having been attacked or have lost a pet to one? They maybe just had a close, quotation marks, encounter. What do you recommend that the animal control officers or the police officers tell those citizens?
Well, I can tell you what I would do. I would immediately go visit that person, speak to them face to face, maybe ask them to meet me where they had that encounter, and gather more information. Maybe it's May 15th, and the guy or gal was walking their dog, and a coyote appeared down the path and started posturing and growling and all that stuff. So for me, then that would be my opportunity to say, well, it's coyote breeding season, and it's, May 15th, which means they probably have already had puppies. And so, with you walking down the path, that coyote was just kind of telling you, hey, give me some space here. I've got family to protect, and to respect that. And to, if it's a little dog, I always recommend you pick the little dog up. If you have a jacket, tuck them in your jacket or your shirt, because you know how little dogs are. They think they're Rin Tin Tin and go after anything. So you don't want your dog squirming all around and getting loose, because that could end up a bad situation. So secure your dog, pick them up, and just slowly walk away in the opposite direction. Let the coyote have the space that he's asking for. So it just kind of depends on what the situation is. I remember a few years ago, I was washing dishes and I was watching the news, and it said, up next, aggressive coyote spotted in Boston. And I thought, oh, this is going to be good. So, the commercials ran through, and then the news came on, and this guy's interviewing this guy with a big, huge dog. And he said, sir, can you tell us what happened? He said, yeah, I was walking my dog and this coyote ran by me. And that was the story. And the caption in the beginning was aggressive coyote spotted in Boston. So it's that kind of information that people get in their heads, that they think that there's aggressive coyotes running around. And it's just not the truth. So if a resident calls you and tells you they've had an encounter, go check it out. Ask some questions, and give them a good answer. Give them a truthful, factual answer why that happened and what they can do next time to prevent it.
Fantastic. Thank you. Our next question is, of all of the resources available in Project Coyote and also any of the other resources, what is sort of the one thing that all animal control officers should have in their tool belt, whatever that tool belt might be, a physical tool belt or a link to something? What is the most important tool in the tool belt for animal control officers when encountering community members who have had situations with coyotes?
They've got a couple of really good pamphlets. One is on hazing, and I really wanted to talk about hazing today because we've been doing it the wrong way for years. But there's a great hazing guide. There's a pamphlet called Coexisting with Coyotes. It's a great pamphlet. Gives you, it's short, sweet, and to the point. It gives you a lot of good information, but not overwhelming. If you're in an area where there's, you have ranching, there's Ranching with Coyotes brochure. And there's a bunch of others, but I think the two ones that I would stick out in my head would be the Coexisting with Coyotes and hazing, because hazing is really important if people know what the heck they're doing.
Fantastic. And it looks like on the screen, there are some of the resources that are available to you: brochures, English and Spanish, a trail sign for you to use for your community, a variety of different signs on feeding, which brings me to my next question. This one says that we know people shouldn't feed coyotes, but this seems to have caused a loss of trust in our local department. What is the best way to build trust with the public in ensuring that the officers understand the best information to provide about coyotes?
Okay, I'm a little unclear on the question.
Yeah.
In regards to the feeding part. Can you repeat that?
Yeah, let me run back to the chat real quick and find it. And if whoever asked that in the chat wants to re-ask it. Okay, so we had an issue in Dallas where the response from the city drew quite a bit of criticism because the blame went to the residents for feeding the coyotes as a reason that the problem came about. So following this issue, the city created a working group, and now there is a fine line for feeding coyotes. So we know that people shouldn't feed coyotes, but it seems to have caused a loss of trust in their local department.
Well, that's unfortunate. Maybe it sounds to me that maybe the delivery of the message from the department wasn't as clear as it could have been. Never point fingers. You know, if people are feeding coyotes and you're aware of it, I can tell you how I would handle that. I wouldn't say, I wouldn't ever go out and say, look, people are feeding the coyotes and that's why they're, well, actually, I would tell them that. When I say it's not good to blame and point fingers, you just have to say and word things correctly. So, nobody likes to be blamed for anything. And when you blame somebody, that just gets their dukes up and they're ready to spar with you. And that's not going to fix the problem. So I would try to put that message back out there, but in a different way. Just don't say, you're feeding coyotes and this is what happens. Say, coyotes that are fed either intentionally or unintentionally can develop these X, Y, and Z behaviors. So you're not pointing a finger at anybody in that sense, but you're telling people that, when you do feed coyotes, this is what happens. And I always try to stress to people, because usually the people that are feeding them, they're the people that, they're kind of over the top with love of wildlife. So they're trying to be kind, but they don't realize that they're probably going to end up getting that animal killed. So I usually try to, emphasize to people that feeding coyotes, although it seems like a great thing and you get to see them and all that, you're really setting him up to be killed, because he's going to get habituated and he's going to come after food, from people. And when he doesn't get it, he's probably going to bite somebody, and then boom, out comes the police and they get shot. So I try to stress to those people that although it seems like a nice thing to do to feed coyotes, it's really not going to do them well. And let them know that by feeding them, chances are they're going to end up getting it killed. And a lot of people will rethink their position on feeding wildlife when you put it that way. But it's unfortunate that the department itself is kind of under fire by trying to do the right thing. I would just, I would just maybe try to put that information back out there, but in a different context, where you're not pointing fingers, where you're just putting factual, fact-based information out there for people to utilize.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, let's see. We're going to do a couple of more questions here. Let's see. There's a couple of questions and some comments about attractants and how best to relay information to the community about sort of things that attract coyotes that they may not be aware of. Are you able to share with us some of your experience in sharing with the community things that might be attractants that they don't necessarily know or realize, and how they may work through some of those issues with their communities?
Sure. Great question, by the way. For me, I was constantly educating the public, constantly. I mean, after a few years of dealing with coyotes, I realized that it's going to be an ongoing thing. And in the town that I worked at, by the way, had a high turnover of people. It was close to Boston, it's close to a commuter rail. So we just got a lot of, the techie people in and then in and out. So there was a high turnover of the community, people that lived in the community. So I constantly was writing articles in the paper. anytime that I would see any evidence of, people feeding either intentionally or unintentionally, like say somebody called me and said, hey, John, I got this beautiful garden, but woodchucks are tearing it up. I don't want to trap them and I don't want to kill them. Can you come over here and help me out? And sure enough, old John would do that. And while I would be over there, I would look around and say, hey, you got a lot of apples underneath that apple tree. And, that's just a menu, an invitation for coyotes and other animals to come and eat. So if you don't want them around, you need to kind of clean that up. So I guess the point is I constantly educated the public. I mean, constantly, every several months, through letters to the editor, and I even had a little column in the newspaper for a while. But I also utilize the face-to-face technique, which I think is the best. I always loved talking to people, and I always loved educating them, and there was nothing better for me to do it one-on-one, or one-on-two or three or whatever. So to answer that question, I think I would put something in the newspaper regarding feeding and, intentional and unintentional feeding in regards to coyote behavior, and get out there and talk to people. So that's what I would recommend.
Fantastic. Thank you. Camilla or Michelle, do you guys want to take it back? Or we have one more question we can go to. We're almost at time.
Sure. If you want to do one more question, and then I'll do a little wrap up.
Perfect. Absolutely. Okay. So John, this one is a little bit different. There's question/comment that it's important to work cooperatively with your local wildlife agencies, because in every jurisdiction and community and state, they are classified differently. So for example, in Arizona, Suzanne says that they are considered a game animal and can be hunted. So what do you recommend for the resources available, as well as making sure that they're being consistent with their state and local guidelines on wildlife, and how do you recommend that animal control officers or agencies find the balance between coexistence and then some of these other laws and things that are out there?
That's a great question, and it's difficult because for whatever reason, coyotes seem to get the public in such a frenzy, and people just think that they're like grizzly bears or something. So it's kind of tough trying to talk about coexistence when somebody writes an article in the paper of how some coyote just tore their dog into pieces. It's not easy, but here's the thing: if you know about coyotes, then you know that they're good to have around. Like here in Massachusetts, the last wolf was killed about 200 years ago. So we haven't had a top apex predator in this state for 200 years. So having coyotes now is a great thing. It fills that niche. It helps the balance of nature to get balance. So there's a lot of good reasons to have coyotes around. So if you can learn those things, then you can relate those things to people, and you can relate it in a way where people understand them. I know, like here in Mass, there's a hunting season on coyotes. Some of those we were able to change the killing contest here in Mass, and I would hope that all you ACOs would be on board to stop killing contests. For killing wildlife for money, guns, or whatever. It's just crazy. But I lost my thought. Sorry. Anyway, to deal with the local state guys is not always easy. You got to remember that state wildlife officials, that's a business, and they make their money by selling licenses, fishing licenses, hunting licenses, and all that stuff. And so they got to have animals that people can hunt. So obviously they're going to be in big favor of having lots of coyotes around because they can sell licenses and make money. So that's kind of a tough adversary to go against, and you really don't want to go against your Fish and Game. You want to work with them. For years, I really had a bad taste in my mouth for the Fish and Game people here in Mass. But last year, I was able to team up with the fur bearer biologist, and I did a presentation with him as a panel member, and he turned out to be a really great guy. I really have to say that I might have had some misconceptions, but since then, we've talked, and he's given me a couple of breaks in regards to rescuing some coyotes. So I would encourage you to try to work with your state officials, but just remember that they're in it for the money. They're in it to sell licenses, and they don't wave off that very well. So I hope that was good information for you.
Thank you so much. I think that was great, and I think it speaks to really the one of the things that we are sharing today is that it's a partnership, right? And so NACA is super excited to be partnering up with Project Coyote to be able to offer all these resources. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Camilla and to wrap us up. And thank you all for joining us.
Thank you, Jerica. And thank you so much, John. You were fantastic. And I just want to say, John, to us, he's been with Project Coyote for, I believe, over 10 years now. And to me, he embodies, I wish you could all see him, he embodies compassionate coexistence. He rides a Harley, and when he does presentations, he just has that gravitas. He knows his stuff, and he's also someone who just understands coyotes, understands the ACO world, and can speak to people. And we encourage more and more men, particularly, to be able to do that, to speak to why these wild animals matter and how we can reduce conflicts. I also just want to mention state agencies that for those of you ACOs who are in California, we have a wonderful partnership with the California Department of Fish and Game through their Wildlife Watch program, which they have revised and refreshed. And so there's a lot of resources there for promoting coexistence, supporting ACOs and communities. And I encourage you to check out the department's Wildlife Watch program. I will also mention that in San Francisco, we have partnered with the San Francisco Animal Care and Control Program, and they have really done a lot of proactive outreach with us. And I think if there's anything that we've learned, it's that the outreach needs to be consistent and persistent, and it needs to kind of get ahead of the curve. And so John mentioned that there's a life cycle of coyotes, and particularly the pupping season that we're in now. That's when we see a lot more conflicts, and when I know a lot of ACOs get a lot of calls around coyotes. So being ahead of the curve, doing that proactive outreach, and working with the other agencies, the other first responders, is really important, because that consistent messaging is absolutely critical so that people are getting that same message throughout the year. And if there's anything we've also learned, it's that wildlife management is really about people management. It's first allaying their fears, as John shared, and then giving them the information, the tools, and the resources. We have lots of information. One place that there's a lot of posts about coyote conflicts, wildlife conflicts, is Nextdoor, which is available in a lot of communities these days. It can be a hotbed for misinformation. So we encourage everyone on this webinar to get our resources, get those websites, and use those in Nextdoor. Use it to educate your own community. It's a wonderful way to get the accurate science-based information out there, allay fears and concerns. For us in San Francisco, coyotes, they were extirpated at a certain point, and they started to come back. And for a lot of people, it's the first predator that they've actually ever encountered. And so that fear is something that you have to recognize in these communities where coyotes may be the new kid on the block. And that's why getting that information out before pupping season and when these conflicts increase is really, really important. So I encourage you to also check out San Francisco Animal Care and Control's website about coyotes. And that area is also a really important place for ACOs to get information out to the community. So with that, do check out the different resources that we shared. We will be doing a follow-up with the webinar recording. And all these resources that you see on screen right now, those can be co-branded with any ACO agency out there. We offer this for free, and we're just super excited to be partnering with NACA. So with that, we're at the top of the hour. I want to thank you all. Thank you, John. Thank you, Jerica. Thank you, Kelly and Michelle on the back end for helping to make this work. Apologies for the technical difficulties, but thank you all for joining, and we'll be having more webinars. So if you're not already on our e-team, you can sign up on our website and we will notify you of future webinars. So thank you all and have a great day.